Oh, no, this is just from the old code. It's just saying it's current as approved.
That's a July. That's a June agenda.
I haven't read this yet, so I'm just trying to.
So much information in my head right now.
So pardon whatever comes out of my mouth. Unintelligible.
Yeah, it's you, Beth.
Okay.
Okay, Betsy, ready? Okay, channel 17, please go ahead, start recording.
Thank you for everybody joining us today for the Transportation Mobility Committee, August 21st, 2025. I am Beth Province, TMAC Chair, and we'll start with introductions with
Kehan Shur with Provo Public Works Engineering.
Vern Keesler, Provo City Engineering.
Anna Salter, Provo City Planning. Hoover, Provo South. Kendall Thurston, member of the TMAC Committee.
Gordon Golding, Development Services, Parking. Stephen Brock, Provo Police Department.
Craig McFarland from BYU and a member of TMAC.
Noah Gordon, member of TMAC.
Dave Killer, TMAC member.
Rich Handley, City Council.
Joseph Gandy, Provo Public Works.
Eddie Johnson, Engineering, Public Works.
Becky Bogdan, City Council. Thank you. And a warm welcome to Kendall. She is going to be representing District 2. So welcome to TMAC. Our first action item is to approve the minutes from June. Do we have anybody who would, any questions, comments, or concerns about the minutes that were sent out?
I forgot to check to see if it noted that I was attending electronically.
Could be read.
Thanks.
I guess I move that we approve the minutes.
Okay.
I'll second it, but I didn't read them.
Thanks, Noah. Okay, all in approval?
Yes.
So our first item of agenda today is the micromobility impact discussion. This has been going on for a long time, and I'm hoping today is kind of our end goal is in sight. There was a lot of things that have come up over the past year. The impact of having the rented scooters in the city, the impact of how the police officers see the micromobility and how it's enforced. We had that wonderful handout that we sent out to the public about that. So today, we wanted to go over, first, we did have something that passed City Council last month, or was updated in City Council last month about micromobility devices. So I just want to go through this really quick, and I know you had a concern about one of them. And then I'll go into the Utah State Code and how there are certain things in Utah State Code I think could be adopted into our city code that could help the police department, help the public in general. So micromobility devices, this includes in 1A, human, motor, or electric-powered transportation. I'm just going to skim through. In Section B, it lists the types of things. So anything electric-assisted or motor-assisted. So that's what electric personal assisted mobility device designates. Those like the one wheels that we've seen around. Mopeds, bicycles, motor-driven cycles. You guys, let's see, on Section C, just goes over the descriptions again. In Section 2, it talks about not being able to operate a micromobility device of greater than 10 miles per hour on a public sidewalk. And then section 3, it's you're not allowed to ride them after dark unless they have reflective materials, and it lists the details for that. It's unlawful in section 4. It's unlawful to leave the devices obstructing pedestrian travel on the sidewalk or on the roadway, especially not in a crosswalk. That kind of seems obvious, but you know, you just kind of have to put it out there sometimes. Section 5 is more of a conduct of the person riding the device, that they show real right of way to pedestrians and give audible signals. Section 6 is that a property owner, this is meaning private property, may prohibit micromobility devices. And section 7 is unlawful for a company to provide micromobility device rentals for use on city streets unless done on behalf of the city pursuant a contract with the city. In section 8, it's unlawful to operate any micromobility device described in 1C of this section on city sidewalks, which I think in section 2 it talks about speeds greater than 10 miles an hour, so I'll have to look at that a little more. And then section 9, no person shall ride micromobility devices, basically University Avenue and Center Street in the downtown area. So, Greg, I know you had a...
Yeah, I've got two issues. Number 1, number 2 and number 8 are in conflict.
That, yeah.
As we just noticed, those two have conflict with me. And before the meeting started, I pointed out that Rule 8 would prohibit normal bicycle shops from renting bicycles to people.
Rule 7.
Yes, excuse me, Rule 7. Okay.
So it may, it doesn't say bicycles, number 1.
Well, but micromobility devices are included.
Defined on that?
Yep.
And then city street, so if someone's renting a bicycle for them to ride on the Provo River Trail, does that?
That's right, but for instance, like Outdoors Unlimited at BYU would be prohibited from renting a bicycle for a semester to a BYU student, presuming that they would use it on Provo City Street.
Unintended consequence, right?
Yeah, so we need to reword item 7. But, the intent is clear that they're trying to make sure that these mobility device sort of app aggregator companies do their work through the city. But I think there's a lot of normal legal behavior that number 7 would prohibit.
Thank you for bringing that up.
Just replace micromobility device with something more specific. Talk about the...
Yeah, or talk about like app-based or like non, yeah. I don't know how to change it.
Is it the length of the rental that might make a difference?
But like,
Because if it's most of the ones that are done through the city are just for.
but if I rent a mountain bike for 2 days from Outdoors Unlimited, like.
But no one's renting a bird bike for 2 days.
No,
So we
so,
could say,
so
Yeah, that's what I'm
less
saying.
than
If
daily rentals.
If it
or
were more than
something,
24 hours, then
Sure.
it would maybe solve that
maybe
problem.
that would be.
Let's, we can show this to Sandy too. Sandy has some expertise. She's at a different meeting today, but we can bring this to Sandy's attention too. There's always room for a little bit of cleanup here and there. So Beth, may I suggest that people can spend 2 weeks more on this and then email me your recommendations or changes so we can get that to the proper folks? Or, heaven forbid,
A lot more to this discussion.
you
so
can have it
two
next
weeks.
month too to discuss any changes to the ordinance. It's your choice.
Well, I think giving people 2 weeks to kind of go over information would be good to give recommendations on how we can improve upon the ordinance. The reason why I went through the ordinance first is so you guys kind of know what's in Provo City too, and thank you for pointing out the things that are glaring. But there's the purpose of these discussions is micromobility is a fast-growing mode of transportation across the nation. You have a micromobility and governance worksheet that Vernon and his team has very wonderfully put together for us, talking about the challenges to cities. Just to the three big ones that they listed were the public safety and injury. Injuries to people have, increased over tenfold, it looks like, on some of these and their interactions on the roadways. ADA compliance, looks like that's also been a very big issue. And we talked about, in the code, it talks about not parking anything anywhere that might be harmful to others, and then operational burdens. As these new mobility devices are coming online, they're not asking permission, they're just asking for forgiveness. And so I think if we try to get ahead of this a little bit more, Provo City can be a city where we're not I would not recommend banning micromobility. It says in here that no city has fully banned micromobility, just in certain areas. And I don't think that's plausible, honestly, because it's such a fast-growing mode of transportation for many people who can't afford other modes of transportation or just prefer those modes of transportation.
It would be a bad idea to
It really benefits our first and last mile connectivity, right? So we certainly want to maintain that, and then
and youth transport and student population.
Which I will be bringing some of that up in the Utah State Code in just a minute. Yeah.
Just one other thing that I noticed on this, number 9,
Yes.
it just says, no use of micromobility device. Anyway, it's the sidewalk, University Avenue between 4th North Street and 100 South. And I'm wondering how the 400 North Street was chosen as the limit of that. And I wonder specifically because when I came out of my physical therapy appointment on 445 North University last week, I had to dodge to avoid being run over by 2 skateboarders. Did Board of Provo get a pass?
Well, what is it about 400? Why would it not be 100 or 700?
Those are what we've defined as our downtown core. Those used to be the borders. It now goes from 400 north up to 500 north to kind of border with the library. But this is just our outdated boundary for what we call downtown. That's why it's kind of an arbitrary line.
Okay, well, I question the validity of that boundary.
Yeah, no, that's totally fair. It's an older version.
Between 4th and 5th North, it's all commercial on University.
That is now included in our definition of what is downtown, but wasn't in our older version.
Oh, okay.
So this
so
is
maybe
the older version.
so that's another thing that we could
I mean,
expand.
referring this definition to another definition of downtown will prevent you
Yeah.
from needing to update this every time the definition.
We can look at maybe the DT2 zone or something like that, see if that's a better fit for what this is overlay.
So going back to micromobility and governance, gives a little brief background. I can talk today, I promise. But in the late 2010s, this is talking about companies that are renting out the scooters, and they exploded everywhere. I know that we have an update about that later, so we'll talk about that in a minute. But then, and this is where I like the conclusion on this, is the spectrum of responsibility on micromobility. It's like, what do we, as the TMAC committee, think that we can recommend to think would be good for Provo City to recommend? There are several cities that have banned all e-bikes and e-scooters in certain areas of their city. It looks like Houston was pushing for the whole urban core, just because of their lack of regulatory framework. But many cities are passing ordinances specifically saying where they can and can't. So just like Provo City, on the sidewalks, they're not allowed, but it doesn't mean they are not allowed on the streets. But this is what I wanted to read. The unintentional consequences of bans. The outright bans are blunt instruments that can cause collateral damage. Bans disproportionately harm low-income populations. They also cut off vital transit connections for residents. A study on Atlanta's nighttime scooter ban found it caused 10% increase in the average commute times, pushing users back into cars. Data from Santa Monica showed nearly half of all micromobility trips replaced a car trip. So like Greg and I have said, a ban on it, I don't think it's feasible, but we can do active management versus neglect, and that's why I like this. So I like the base of Provo City Code, but there's a couple of things in the Utah State Code that I would like to bring forth. So Utah State Code has you treating bicycles, electric skateboards. They call them electric skateboards, electric unicycles, and then any other personal, what do they call it? Electric personal assisted mobility devices. That's what they call it in the Utah State Code. That does not talk about a ADH person who needs to use an electric scooter to get around. This is just personal electric assisted things. And they are treated the same as bicycles. There are a couple of things in the Utah State Code that I'd like to talk about. In the Utah State Code, it says a person under 15 years old may not operate an electric or personal assisted mobility device using a motor unless the person is under direct supervision of their parent or guardian. I know we've had some issues in parks.
Can you read that sentence again?
Says a person under 15 years old may not operate an electric personal assisted mobility device using the motor unless the person is under the direct supervision of the person's parent or guardian.
How do they define direct supervision?
We're riding on the back.
That's a good question.
I mean, that is a very good question.
I bought my kid this motorcycle, therefore I supervised it.
Going up and down my street, but there's no parents in sight.
And that's,
Well, they're watching from the window.
That's what I'm wondering, if that's what they think they're doing.
So I guess the question I have about this discussion, that is, all these Utah codes automatically apply to Provo, right?
yes, I believe
Okay.
so. It
Yeah.
should.
I mean, unless there's an explicit thing that
We'll have
cities
more, but
can
that's
do
the-
more, but,
Yeah.
We can do more restrictive, but not less.
Right.
Yeah, so we could say actually in Provo it's gonna be
It's
age
18,
12 instead of 15, but we couldn't up it to 18 because that's more permissive.
Oh,
So
okay.
you can be more strict in the code,
Yeah,
but you
yeah,
can't be less strict. Yeah.
I guess my point is it's not specifically stated that this is the code for Provo City. So I want to make sure that we,
All state laws immediately apply
automatically.
to the cities and the state.
yes.
So,
I'm thinking on a 5-year-old level, if you don't specifically tell somebody something, they tend to not think about it. I mean, I've had an officer tell me that he stopped somebody on the street and said, oh, you can't do that. And they're like, well, yes, I can. And off. So it's like, no, you can't. Here's why you can't. Maybe Officer Bruff, you can answer this. Are there in the state code that you guys have for Provo City?
There's a lot of undefined areas just because micromobility devices have boomed so quickly that state and local codes don't quite keep up. Kind of comes into the exact same realm of like, what is a electric motorcycle versus a moped or a motor-assisted bicycle, right? We're now seeing, I just saw an ad the other day that I was like, holy cow, that's 7,000 watt electric assisted bicycle. Well, that's the exact same wattage as an electric assisted motorcycle. It's a bicycle. So now, like, it's able to go 50 miles an hour. Like, we don't have any code that enforces that. Easily see a bicycle doing 50 miles an hour down what University Avenue. That's a bicycle, a motorcycle. Those are kind of those gray areas that we do run into quite a bit, as far as like law enforcement goes.
I saw scooters is going 35, easy, 40.
Exactly.
I was shocked at how fast he was.
Yeah, so we don't have a speed limit for scooters on the road, but there are, you know, if the scooter's in the bike lane, it falls under the exact same speed limit as a vehicle on the roadway, right?
So, and that,
But they also don't have to be licensed by a scooter.
yeah,
You could have a,
they don't.
you could have a 15-year-old riding a scooter at 35 miles an hour down Fifth West, and they're 100% in the right as long as they have a parental supervision for the state code. And the state code doesn't define.
They're 15, they wouldn't need that supervision.
Yeah,
You
sorry.
could have 16-year-old
Yeah,
on
right.
the other side, yeah.
Yeah, you could have a 12-year-old as long as they're supervised. What's direct supervision? You go into off-road vehicle definitions for direct supervision, get into the adult has to be able to intercede if there's an emergency, right? So side by side, they gotta be in the passenger seat. They're on the four-wheeler, they gotta be immediately next to them, stuff like that. There's definitely gray areas, a little bit difficult.
I think the point of this is to kind of adopt all of that so that you guys, we're not having gray areas. So it's not somebody as you approach somebody, say, you're not allowed to do this, and they're like, well, yes, I am, and they can go off and you can't do it. There are actually Utah state codes that talk about electric assisted bicycles that said an individual under 16 years old may not operate a class 3. An individual under 14 years old may not operate an electric assisted bicycle with an electric motor engaged on any public property, highway path or sidewalk, unless the individual is under the direct supervision of a parent or guardian. And an individual under 8 years old may not operate an electric assisted bicycle with electric motor engaged on any public property, period. So as we have these codes at the state that are not, yes, adopted in the city, I think it's more about education at this point in time so that the public knows that, hey, I specifically pulled up the one for electric assisted bicycles because the electric assisted bicycles for all the electric personal assisted mobility devices, whatever we're calling them, same things apply across the board. There's just a couple of more stringent rules about the electric assisted.
Are you proposing that we,
Put the verbiage into Provo City Code?
The state information in the Provo City Code?
Yes, at least something, I mean, I don't know if you want to put all 14 pages into it, but
I think that would be, I think because all that automatically applies, if you put in all that same text in here, then when the state changes their laws, inevitably next legislative session, we would have to do the same thing again. I mean, I think a simple thing that might, because the problem is not legal constructs, it's education. And that is not necessarily the job of this body. I mean, it's the job of...
We've done it in the past, though.
We don't. TMAC doesn't. We encourage the city to do it. I guess, I mean, I don't know what the outcome of this is other than maybe to add a point 10, we follow all state laws, which is already kind of implied.
Implied doesn't always get to everybody because some people don't get implications. So that's why I'm saying if you actually put it in the code and say we follow all state laws and regulations concerning micromobility within the city.
But I think that
With the link to the code?
With a link to the
yeah, I mean, that could work. I guess what I'm worried about is that all the people who would read the state code would also read the city code. Because no one goes and reads the city code.
From the code analyst perspective, we don't reference state code directly anywhere else in code because it is assumed that we follow it. There are points that we repeat, kind of reinforce, so that it's easier maybe as our officers are looking, it's easier for them to find it. But the residents' point, the residents aren't going to find it in either place, honestly. Residents don't read the city code. No one expects them to. It's not really governing their day-to-day life in a way that they're aware of.
But you do repeat some state code into city ordinance
It's occasional to kind of like underscore and reinforce, but if you want, and again, that's for internal use more than external public. So if your goal is to make it more accessible for internal navigation, sure, reference it in the code. That makes a lot of sense. We do it elsewhere. If your point is to get it out to residents, then a direct educational campaign like has been done tends to be more effective if they're not reading the code. And whether you're referring them to city code or state code, it's the same. You're still giving them the same message. So that's just how this has been handled in the past. This is, of course, TMAC's decision.
I personally would like to reinforce several things into city code though. Another one was speed limits on sidewalks. I'm looking for my notes.
I'm going to interject a little
Yes.
bit. So I'm going to disagree with Hannah a little bit. There are residents that do dig into city code. I've been doing this stuff for a long time as a neighborhood chair, area rep, and a city councilor, and there are residents that do dig into city code for whatever reason. I have run into quite a few. So Hannah's right. I mean, I think it's more effective to get those that aren't reading city code, do something like she suggests. But Beth is also right. You do have those diehards that are reading city code.
My suspicion is the people who are reading the city code are the ones who are looking for loopholes and exceptions when
That is
they're
not
trying.
true.
Is it not true?
That
Do
is-
people read the city code like as evening, like light reading? or
No,
like
they
how
do it so that they can know what is expected of them.
They are unicorns and we love them.
Yeah.
I think that's I'm sorry.
Right, well, I also think if they think their rights are being infringed upon, then they're definitely going
Right.
to use
Yeah.
the city code to know, like, am I in the right, can I call a complaint?
But a lot of people also just want to obey the law and want to know.
Those same individuals also reading the state code though.
That I cannot verify. I just, city code that I know.
I think the issue is a lot of people's kids are getting access, they're giving them access to these things, and then they're not knowing necessarily what their kids are doing, because they're not telling them what the rules are. At least that's what I'm observing, you know, so I see lots of people going over 10 miles an hour on sidewalks. We got me like 20 miles an hour on a sidewalk, and I'm, oh, okay.
Yeah.
Or, you know, kids under the age of 15 riding super fast electric motorcycles. This is happening, just, you've seen it, it's happening right in my neighborhood. And I don't think, I know that the people I know, I don't think they even know that those are the rules. And I think the best way for them to get them is that, you know, that, I don't know if it ended up being a refrigerator magnet, but it was perfect for a quick summary, visual summary. But I don't recall that in that it said anything about the age. So I think if there's anything in the state code, you guys can figure out what you want to recommend, but I would say if there's anything in the state code that you think should be front and center in Provo citizens' mind, that's going to be the most effective place for them to see it, because that's the kind of message I'm trying to send to even the families that I know. I'm just like, hey, by the way, I don't know if you know that what your son is doing is actually not legal,
Right.
and it's very dangerous. And, you know, most people will say, oh, I didn't know that, and now that I do, I'll figure something out. So most of it's just done in ignorance. I don't even know that some of the parents know how fast these things can go. If they do, I don't know why they're buying motorcycles for their kids. It's 12.
I think in all of this, the problem is not that we don't have rules. The problem is that people don't know what the rules are, and that maybe some of the rules are not being enforced effectively. But adding new rules or rewriting rules is not going to change either of those other two things.
Well, that comes to the point of sending that no person shall ride the devices on the sidewalks. That is a rule added by Provo City in the downtown area. Are there other areas in the city that we feel that micromobility isn't?
Rule number 8, apparently nowhere in the city.
Yes, so that, yeah, there is a discrepancy between 2 and 8.
So there's a real challenge where scooters, including, you know, modest electric scooters, are a useful tool in getting kids to school. And I don't want those kids necessarily using the bike lanes that are like, is a non-electric scooter, no, that would not be a mobility device. But a bicycle would be. So if a 9-year-old is going to ride a bicycle to school, I would want her to do it on a sidewalk. I do not want to put in a no mobility devices on sidewalks anywhere where there's an elementary school in range.
And I think there is an exemption for 14 and under.
Yeah.
So in the state code.
Yeah.
I think it's 14 and under, but we can look at that.
So I guess I would not want to expand the areas. I think we could discuss shrinking it, but,
So allowing the electric scooters on sidewalks and that.
or parts of downtown, maybe off of Center Street or the University or something like that.
I would even recommend at intersections, because I don't want teach my child to go, hey, you gotta get in the turn lane with all the cars, or, to follow that along. I take my kids, I have electric bikes, and I'm like, oh, the intersection's coming up, we're gonna get on the sidewalk so that we can cross, so people can see us and know exactly where we are.
And they do actually cover that in the state code of where you are to get off and then cross at the crosswalk with your, that's. No, that's.
Or the city.
It's okay,
I
no.
haven't bought my children motorcycles, but we do have a lot of them.
No, but I think that's really a very good thing to educate the public on as to how to do certain maneuvers, because if you're on an electric bike as an adult, you're allowed to go in the turn lane with the vehicles and turn as per code. But as a minor, if you're with minors, you want to have them cross at the crosswalk, not in the turn lane. So you would prefer to stick with education. I would like to put into city code just to reiterate age limitations on the micromobility as a recommendation, just because I think, like you said, a lot of parents are buying these devices for their kids, and their kids are not allowed to be on them. Yet they're out there in public, potentially causing safety issues for those around them. Feelings on
So
those?
two concerns, as the state and federal government continues to make new rules, it's really a challenge for council, it's a challenge for staff to try to even keep track of those changes as they continue to make them, and then find where local code is at odds. I just deal with this all the time. It's always, it's like this.
Well, technically, the local code is already at odds because,
right.
too, they say you can't drive on the sidewalk greater than 10 miles per hour, but in the state code, it's 15.
We can be more.
We can be more restrictive.
Yes, we can be more
We can be more restrictive, we just can't, but I'm saying as the rules continue to change, it's a real challenge just to keep up on. President Trump changed a whole bunch of stuff, which just trickles down, and then so that's a concern, and then the enforceability aspect. So I'm just putting myself in Officer Bruff's shoes, and he pulls over a kid who's in there, and he's like, hey, how old are you? Hopefully the child is honest, but he probably isn't carrying an ID that says he's 14 versus 15, and so then, so it really is an educational thing, I would think, through the schools and at home to even say, here's what the rules are. We need to get kind of a clear picture of what the rules are to be able to educate them. But if parents aren't willing to enforce these at home, it's going to be a real challenge for society at large to be able to then do that. So,
Russ, how interested is Johnny in doing something? What will go where as to what age can?
We can change it, like to that, just, age that was brought up by the Department of Legal and back in all through. But you're right, I don't believe it does have age limits on it or anything like that. As far as what ages, it doesn't refer to the state code on what ages. But,
Because I think this has caused a lot of chatter. I think it's good chatter.
This is a great device.
but that's a lot easier to, well, in some ways it's easy, in some ways it's not. Electric motorcycle that someone's put on the pedals, and it look like a bicycle, then it makes it your job. But that's hard, that's easier, I would say, to enforce visually this versus ages.
yeah, I mean, how do I know if a kid is on a scooter and he's 15 versus 14?
Well, we understand it's under the discretion of the police officer. You can probably tell if a 5-year-old on.
Yeah, absolutely.
And you can say, yeah, this is for your safety and the people around.
I mean, I think a real useful thing to come out of this discussion would be adding whatever state-related age restrictions exist in code onto this document and making sure that this gets distributed regularly to all the households in Provo.
Yeah, this currently,
It just says, you know, no one under 15 without supervision. I
Yeah.
let them interpret what that means, but, you know.
Yeah, but George, do we need to interpret what provision means in our code?
But we don't have it, oh, in our code? I think that gets,
AI.
I'd rather just, I think most parents are gonna want to are gonna be erring on the side of caution, hopefully.
Hopefully they err on the side.
So Officer DeBruck, I just did like a quick AI, that what does it say as far as direct supervision in the Utah State Code? And it tells out exactly what he said, which is for off-highway vehicles, it has to be within 300 feet. You know, within that distance, visual contact must be maintained. A supervisor must be able to give and receive advice and assistance. Then it says right in there, this other section on micromobility doesn't define that at all. So, and I said, did anybody in Utah define them? It's like, yeah, no. It points out Provo's code. So.
they are.
You are.
I hope you're smart. That's a blessing
Right there.
That's what we let you start. So it kind of sounds like some of these things probably do need to be.
That particular item, as far as if the city council wants to bite off that and says, what does direct supervision mean? That's a hole in the state. I think that one has no definition, at least no use of it.
Just did want to point out two things with that. Councilor Bogdan was able to quickly pull this information up. The entire state code was passed in July, or entire city code was passed July 8th, 2025 as the annual thing, but April 18th, 2023 was when this was adopted, latest adoption of it.
A note as you're reading code, yeah, at the end of the section, you'll see all these like AM with dates that's amended. The very last repealed and reenacted, the REP and REEN repealed and reenacted 2020. So that's when you can tell when the code was written, but the bottom will just say last time the website was updated. So something was passed like July 15th, don't expect that to be in here. Those are the dates.
And then finally, Beth asked us to go ahead and put together some information. So we did a white paper on micromobility and governance for you to read through. I think we sent out last week in advance. But one of the things we wanted to inform you of is that Bird has officially notified Provo City that they will be pulling out of Provo City, terminating their contract within. Only 2 of these companies nationwide are profitable. It's in 2010 and 2012 when these companies started coming in and just putting them everywhere. Cities had to react to that. A lot of communities put out RFPs or RFQs and selected 1 or 2 firms to be able to provide this stuff within their jurisdiction. We ended up selecting Bird a couple different times, and since then they filed bankruptcy a couple different times. So there's only 2 that's profitable. It's in the white paper, and it sounds as though that, to me, micromobility is important enough for that first and last mile, and for those that don't have the benefit of other transportation means, that the city will probably put out another RFQ, and maybe hopefully it's with one that's a little more financially successful. So anyway, I just share that with you. It sounds like there are some cleanup items that the TMAC could want to provide in our city code that we could then recommend to the Planning Commission and the City Council. By all means, if that's something you want to do, I hate to say this, but you're not quite there yet. You're probably going to have to discuss this next meeting, okay? There's a lot of ideas out here from what I'm hearing from you, and I don't think we have enough time to get it all done today.
Can I propose that somebody may, I don't know if this is Beth or me or someone else, prepare a draft list of changes to the city code that we can discuss by email on a document and then adopt in our next meeting? Because I feel like these discussions often, wander into, oh, I once saw a kid do this, it was crazy.
great.
Saw a guy run a red light on State Street 5 seconds after the light turned red, so that seems crazy to me, but.
Yeah, that's pretty crazy. I think, here's, if you took a week or two
Yeah.
to get stuff into us, we might be able to turn around and put something in the ordinance. Writing ordinances are not easy right now, and they're challenging, and we could bring that before you at our next meeting. Don't have a problem doing that. Just with some of our construction projects wrapping up, we're in the field every single day, and it's hard to get enough office time to develop this when we're really answering the day-to-day stuff. So I don't know if I can turn it around within a month.
And that's fine, I think, but I guess what I'm saying is, when we see this again on our agenda, it'd be nice to, rather than an open discussion.
Absolutely.
And whatever we need to do to prepare for that. If it happens next month, fine. If it happens in December, that's probably fine too.
That's the direction.
Yeah.
I took some notes down. Should we set a date for any comments from the TMAC meeting, TMAC committee to be emailed to me so I can be inclusive of that?
Can we get those comments in 2 weeks?
Okay, let's set a date for that then. If everybody is good with that, that would be September 4th. Well, let's just do a Friday, September 5th. If you have everything in by then, I'll start to look at it the following week. That work? Okay.
Next up on the agenda is following up on the transportation utility fees.
Okay, so one of the things that I need to do a better job of is updating you on your successes. And one success was that the TMAC committee wanted more maintenance funds, and so one of those maintenance funds, the way to do that is transportation utility fees. So we made this presentation in front of the city council, and they adopted these this update. So let's just go through here. So this is the outline of what we'll discuss today, and we'll just go one by one on this. Little history, good, bad, or indifferent. Dave Graves, Provo City Engineer, and myself are to blame bringing transportation utility fees to Utah, to the state. We were the first city to adopt these.
Take pride in that, Vern.
Good, bad, or indifferent, we'll say that, okay? I actually do take a little pride in it. We did the study in 2013, we adopted it in 2014. Other cities started to mimic what we did, but we did a very inclusive, very intense transportation utility fee program. And we had other cities trying to do it a little bit quicker and a little bit less expensive. So one city got sued. It went to district court. It ruled against transportation utility fees. Just so you know, each state is a little bit different. In the state of Washington, transportation utility fees are illegal. In the state of Oregon, right to the south, they're legal, right? They're great. If you're in Idaho, they're not legal in Idaho. They are legal in Utah. And they were first started in the state of Colorado in 1984 by Fort Collins, Colorado. Went all the way to the state Supreme Court there in Colorado, and it passed. It so has done the same thing. So this little old thing that we developed called transportation utility fees went all the way to the Utah State Supreme Court, and they ruled in favor of it. Since that time, there's been some pushback, mostly from religious institutions, not wanting to be charged the transportation utility fee. So House Bill 367 was introduced, did not pass. House Bill 454 and Senate Bill 310 was passed last year, or was presented last year, but the Senate bill and the House bill could not be reconciled. The House bill believes that religious institutions should pay their fair share, and that the Senate bill believed that they should not. So that's kind of a quick summary of that. will there be a bill this year? Yes, you can guarantee it that someone is going to submit a bill to exempt religious institutions, and I have a problem with that. Okay, next one. Here's our original and current monthly fee schedule. We have 8 categories, 2 residential, 4 commercial, and 2 public use categories. This up just a little bit. And you can see what our 2014, and we did one increase in like 2023 or 2024 is like really low, 5% or whatever. So our rate hasn't increased drastically by any means. In fact, we were raising exactly half of what we needed in 2014 to maintain our streets at a 10-year remaining service life. So some examples of our trip generation rates.
Or can you state that again? If I remember right, when you first put this together as a consultant, you came up with a fee essentially that needed to be in place for the city to be able to kind of maintain a status quo. The city council chose to adopt a fee, 50% of that.
50% of what
and it really hasn't risen, as we just saw,
at all. Yeah.
appreciably at all.
Yeah.
Although I'm guessing roads now cost a little more than they did.
Slightly.
I know the answer.
Slightly.
So the purchasing power of this is going
It's
down.
gone, yeah, down.
Yeah. So we keep getting further and further behind. So we presented this issue and concept before the council. In fact, some members on the council were very proactive and asked us to update our study. So I was grateful for that. And so you can kind of see the different categories there that fall into those larger or smaller land uses. So that's what's great. Ours was defensible because we based on our land uses based upon the trips that they produce through the Institute of Transportation Engineers, ITE. And
Question about that.
yeah, yeah.
Do you describe specifically which land uses you use for each land use? Because IT has like 700 land uses.
Yeah, we narrowed it down to the bigger concept. So instead of the 4-digit number,
But is that in code? Is it like
it was in
this land use will apply to this?
It was in the study a long time ago when we did it, yeah. So we get down to the kind of the 2 digits and not the 4 digits. Let's go to roadway maintenance needs approach. We do have a philosophy here at Provo that good roads cost less. We don't have to rebuild them all the time. It's a lot less, and we're better stewards of our infrastructure. So you can kind of see that. Inflation does weaken our ability to maintain our roads, as Noah talked about. So we are trying to continue to do the best we can with the funding that is allocated. So this is something right here that you'll see that is our remaining service life. And the remaining service life is basically the condition of the roadway. When we started in 2011, we're under that 10-year mark. We started our transportation utility fees in 2014. We started to climb a little bit, put some more treatments to our maintenance preservation. By the way, David Mickelson is our current preservation maintenance engineer, and he does an awesome job with what funds he gets. 2019, we're starting to climb up here, doing pretty good. We got in that sweet spot. I call it the sweet spot. It's that 12 to 15-year spot. I think anything above 15 and 20 is the gold standard, okay? And while every public works person would probably say we want to be in the gold standard, I think the right fiscal arena is to be in the sweet spot between 12 and 15 years. Noah, you're an engineer with Linden, right? What's your thoughts of the sweet spot of remaining service life?
Yeah, so we use a PCR instead of an RSL, which is just a pavement condition rating. So really a question of how much money. We do a best roads first philosophy there as well, because it's pennies on the dollar to do things like crack seal and seal coating. But there are obviously many residents who are like, why is this new road receiving treatment when my road's falling to dust and you're just letting it go to pieces? So there are some political decisions which are made, which we often get to discuss with the council to try to educate. But it really is a question of dollars. I mean, yeah, the gold standard would be great if you could have everything essentially have that many more years left before full rebuild, but especially if you're only collecting, well less than half now, what you can actually do to keep it in that spot, or you're actually making any headway.
So we have gone down just a little bit, right? And we hope to come back up with this latest action from our city council. So here's the latest action that they've done. You can see the current monthly rate. We proposed a 14% increase for the next 3 years annually. And so the council agreed to that and have adopted, so we're gonna increase our fee from 2.7 million to 4 million on our transportation utility fees over the next 3 years. Okay, so that's a very positive thing, and I am going to call out our council members that are here today because I appreciate it so much.
Oh, thank you.
That was a unanimous decision, right? It was a unanimous decision. I appreciate that.
You heard much you take back. I mean, from a residential standpoint, it's some. It's not a huge amount, but it's really the larger commercial entities that really get dinged.
I have not received one comment in favor or against this since the adoption.
Have I, have you, George?
There was, BYU was involved in some conversation prior to it, anxiety about it, but
Yeah, that's a
That
good
was one of the
point.
original drivers, wasn't it?
The last time you brought this up, I think you saying that BYU was like in arrears on their payments for it. Is that still the case?
They were at the public hearing and they did comment, but since the adoption, we haven't received anything. At the public hearing, their attorney did come up and state and actually question the fee a little bit. Maybe the legality of it. They were reaching.
There's some interest in fighting it at the state level, but our response was, if you want to go fight that at the state level, that's fine, but we're not gonna,
I thought that's where Patrice is right now.
Like Kentucky, I can't remember if it was in this meeting or prior. One of the reasons that Provo City went this direction was because of large amount of property owned by the church and BYU and Intermountain Health, which are all tax exempt.
Yeah.
So they aren't paying their fair share essentially. And it seems like at least back then they were all in agreement. I mean, that it was fair if they didn't like it. But
Yeah,
They
but
pushing back
now they're
against it more?
pushing back because other cities across the state are now adopting these same fees. They don't want it to spread. They have a lot of real estate across the state, lots of land uses,
I
and,
think Provo's a bit unique though, I mean, with
Yeah.
BYU compared to even any other entity.
You know how the impact that
BYU, all the chapels.
Huge impact, huge share of the land.
They'll get that.
Yeah, that's right.
52% of our land is tax exempt in Provo City. We're the county seat, we have BYU, we have all those big organizations that you talked about. But when we do a bond, it's not fair to you residents that live here for us to bond, because the only people paying on that bond for road improvements are the taxable parcels. So they're already getting a break as tax exempt, and they're not willing to pay their fair share. So I gotta get off my soapbox and get back to the presentation, okay?
I like when you're on your soapbox, Vern.
Don't we give them a little bit of break on their chapels though?
Most of the chapels are public use A. Now, Provo's a little bit unique. They have what these called are double or super chapels, and they produce more than your regular, okay? So they fall under the category, they might get 100 a month, that 96 a month instead of 21 a month. Okay. Bigger land use, generating more trips, they gotta pay more. That's it. And then the city adopted this ordinance, and so when we do studies like our transportation utility fees, we can now include the cost of doing that study by using our transportation utility fees. That is it for transportation utility fees. Any other comments or questions? Okay, I got 5 minutes to go through these next projects, and we have been busy. You just want to pull them up and I'll just speak to them.
Yeah, I'm not sure what's correct. But we'll start with Bob. Hopefully you
Yeah,
can
that's right.
toggle. I'm not sure.
Okay, so our 9th East project with the, pedestrian crossing is under construction. We're really excited about this. It's gonna be in between the 560, two streets, so one goes east, one goes west. This has been needed for decades, and we're really excited this is under construction. So I took 2 pictures there, okay. We coordinated with BYU on University Parkway. We had 6 trees that were still somewhat semi-alive in the median there. BYU wants to put forth a really good, this is where I speak positive, BYU. So BYU said, hey, we need to spend some money. This needs to look better. We said, by all means. So we helped them clean everything out, and then they put in new water meters. They put in new sprinkler system, new sod, new trees. There's 40 new trees of 2 different species up there. It's awesome. So if you haven't been by it, it looks terrific. There's another picture of it. And then I get the link to my left turn lane there, so I was really happy, right? We'll restripe that pretty quick. Kahan's project. Kahan was the project engineer for this one. This is 8th North and 5th East. This has been needed for 50 years. No doubt about it, right? We're really excited about this. I did not include the picture of the car hitting the middle one the very first day it was in.
Perfect.
It might be in here. So I took the pictures out there this morning.
That's like when you guys put the speed bump on Center Street and the city council staff would watch that first week while people would hit it going 35 miles an hour. And they
In
would
my
go,
corner, yeah, we take a soda break around 4:30 when people are starting to speed home and just like
Very
Diet Coke, watch people hit.
people figured it out.
This is 6th North and 4th East, right by Manavu Chapel. Manavu Manor is the apartment complex on the right. And so these are 4 new bulb outs, 4 new crosswalks with 4 new street lamps. Sam did a fabulous job on this one too. This has been needed for so long. This 4th East is our collector street, and it's the only through street now that BRT is in. It goes all the way from 8th North all the way down to 6th South. Okay. There's another picture of it. Fabulous job by our staff and construction crew. This was also another Kahan project 3 in a row. This is the traffic signal at 5th North and 4th East. Very much needed. In fact, this was warranting an all-way stop. And when we did the warrant analysis, Kahan said, Vern, we got to update this to a signal. And we upgraded it to the signal. So it's fabulous. I saw so many pedestrians using this. When I was out today between the hours of 8 and 10 taking these photos, I will tell you, I saw more bicyclists and more pedestrian activity, more joggers than I've ever seen before. That might be the sweet spot. After they drop their kids off to school, that 8 to 10 is a great time. So we restriped 5th North to 10-foot travel lanes, 5-foot bike lanes, and 7.5, 8-foot, I think it's 8.5, 7.5 with the gutter, so it'll be 8.5 with the gutter. So we got 5th North. This will be a detour street as well when we start our bridge work October 1st on the 820 North Provo River Bridge. People like this. I've received a lot of compliments on this one and also on 1130 North up in the Grandview North neighborhood.
That's my parents' house on the left. That's my dad's truck.
Oh, is it?
He called me the day he thought, this is so great. This is wonderful. Yeah.
That is such.
At least one neighbor is a big fan.
When you get a really happy email from Roger McFarland, you know you've done something right.
Again, these are 10-foot travel lanes, so not 11 or 12, but 10-foot travel lanes, 5-foot bike lanes, and this corridor is pretty wide. It's a collector, and so it had a full 8.5-foot wide shoulder for parking to retain. And while I was up there, like, zoomed by me. I mean, that person zoomed right by me.
Go ahead.
Picture from the other direction. Now we're down on 600 South between 1600 West and 1400 West, right across the street from Sunset Elementary School. And you'll see that we put in sidewalk. We delayed this project a full year, but rather than going for an asphalt trail and doing something halfway, we put a little bit more money toward it, waited another year and did it the right way. And so this is what that looks like there. It also has bike lanes on 6 South in this section. Very happy. Emma Patching was our project engineer for this one. Did a fabulous job. This one is up on Canyon Road, and I believe it's 4380 North, somewhere around that area. This was a sidewalk gap that was missing for Edgemont Elementary, and it turned out terrific. Danielle Nixon was our project manager engineer for this one. Turned out terrific. It allowed us to get rid, let me go to the next one here. This is the other one that benefits Canyon Crest Elementary. We were able to get rid of a mid-block crosswalk with a reduced speed school zone and take it all the way down to Foothill Drive here. This was a really good project, and it was a little tough because it's actually in the county. But we got the property owners to agree to this. This is something the school community council really wanted us to consider for the last 2 or 3 years. We finally got it done. And Danielle and her team did a great job. There it is, looking the other direction. That crosswalk was just about right there mid-block. Of course, it's 35 mile an hour speed. They're supposed to go down to 20, and sometimes they didn't do that. That is one more thing. Can you go to the one with the Lakeview Parkway? Oh, sorry, we're over already. We're just going to show you Lakeview Parkway real quick. We had the grand opening there. Okay, this is Gordon with Willie the Wolverine and Cosmo the Cougar, right? So our public works director. I don't know where he's at. Usually he's joining us here. Anyway, great day last Saturday. Beth was there. Councilor Bogdan was there. This is Mayor Kagrusi speaking. We had County Commissioner Emily Powers there. Is that right, Powers? No. And then, did I get it right? And then Danielle Nixon, who was our project manager for this last connecting phase of Lakeview Parkway. You were there too. She got to say a few words after our elected officials, and again, this turned out to be a great activity. We had probably about 250 people there, lots of leftover donuts. The shave ice was fantastic. We had a mile fun run walk, and some of you in this room completed that. So we've had a busy summer. Construction season doesn't end when school starts, to the remiss of the school district, but we have plenty of work we still got to get done before the asphalt batching plants close in.
We forgot to put a no parking sign there.
I hate to laugh at someone else's misfortune, but
Can we give this person an award? Like, can we send them a certificate of some kind?
This person, as soon as the accident report comes in, this person's insurance company will be charged for the damage. So, it actually, the box stopped working in the middle there. Anyway, that's all I have, Beth.
Okay. Thank you so much. And next month, see y'all next month. Thank you. Provo Shop? Sure. Do you want to put MAC on the agenda and then